this morning's post-cabinet press briefing. My name is Leslie Ann Johnson. I am sitting in for the press secretary to the Prime Minister, Ms. Philomena Robertson. And so good morning to all of you joining us on Channel 22 and in the diaspora and, of course, online. We have with us this morning the Honorable Oliver Joseph, who will be facilitating this morning's press briefing. And we will be looking at a number of issues this morning. Concern over the situation at the T.A. Marichaud Community College, TAMCC, the 2020 Strategic Human Resource Needs for the Public Service, road traffic or breathalyzer test for alcohol regulations 2019, approval for the lease of a parcel of land at Carriacou St. Andrew for the Grenada Cocoa Association to construct a receiving station, and examining the possibility of reducing CET on the alternative to plastics and styrofoam to promote the use of biodegradable products. So these are the issues that Mr. Joseph will be looking at this morning. But we invite you to stay with us, because when Mr. Joseph is done, we will have officials from the National Water and Sewage Authority, and they will be talking about the new water rates to be applied as part of a tariff reform measure, and that will come into effect from January 2020. So once again, as I said, stay with us. So we go now to the Honorable Oliver Joseph.
Thank you very much. Good morning to all our listeners and viewers to this program. As you are aware, the unions representing workers at the T.A. Marichaud Community College have instructed the workers there to take industrial action over the payment of, or the non-payment of increments. This non-payment of increments amounts to $6.2 million. The council is directly responsible for the running and for the payment of council staff members at the college. The college have two sets of workers, those that are seconded to the college from government. Government pays these workers. The college employs additional staff, and government gives a subvention in total of $17 million. The $14 million that was reported, that goes directly to the payment of staff by the college, and the $3 million goes towards paying electricity, utility bill like electricity, water. So it's a cost of $17 million to government to run the college. The college also gets the money from fees charged to students at the college. Over the years, the council has been hiring the staff, deciding on the level of staffing, and the council is supposed to report to the minister responsible for education on the financial position. As it stands now, the council has indicated an inability to pay, to meet this increment payment covering the period 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 5 years of increment. And so Cabinet is very concerned about the situation, because students are affected. It is our understanding now that the papers are not marked, and students that are preparing for CAPE advanced level will have to have these grades submitted, and therefore it is a matter of grave concern, and Cabinet has asked for a proposal from college to address the matter in order to bring this situation to conclusion and to stability. Cabinet also at the meeting yesterday approved the 2020 Strategic Human Resource Needs for the Public Service. This strategic human resource policy will guide the recruitment of personnel in the public service. As you may be aware, government has taken a position not to increase the size of the public service. In fact, during the structural adjustment program, an attrition policy was put in place, where what we call 3 for 10, for every 10 persons that exit, only 3 will come in order to reduce the public service. The numbers have been going down, and we need to maintain the numbers in the public service. And therefore, this policy that was approved by Cabinet will be the guide in determining the level of the public service. This is also in keeping with the medium-term agenda by government as one aspect of the 3-year medium-term agenda. And so personnel management in the public service will be done on a scientific basis, and the numbers will be monitored very carefully. The other issue that government approved yesterday was the road traffic breathalyzer test for alcohol regulation 2019. As you are aware, we passed in Parliament the law that deals with breathalyzer testing, and therefore we need regulations in order to give effect to this act. And therefore the regulations of 2019, Cabinet approved the regulation 2019, which will bring into effect the breathalyzer test for alcohol. As you know, this is a very scientific process. It means that we'll have to have the correct instrument to do this test, because I'm aware that you could face some challenges if you do not have the correct instrument. But that is a widely established practice, and so the measurement and the levels are well established to determine the alcohol in your system. And we want to move forward with that, and therefore the regulations will come into place shortly, having been approved by Cabinet. The Grenada Cocoa Association applied to government to lease a parcel of land measuring 3,179 square feet in Carriacou to build a receiving station. Right now, they are renting facilities in order to buy cocoa when you have to go and sell cocoa in that area. The Cocoa Association do not have their own building. And so Cabinet gave approval to lease this parcel of land to the Cocoa Association so that they can construct a receiving station. That will bring a lot of relief to the farmers, because we have had a lot of complaints from farmers of how far they have to travel and how inadequate the current arrangement is. And therefore, this will help address the concerns of both the farmers and the Cocoa Association themselves, who want to build the receiving station but do not have lands. And therefore, with the allocation of the lands, that should alleviate the problem of buying of cocoa in that area in St. Andrews. Also, as you are aware, the government have passed into law the Biodegradable Act to replace non-biodegradable plastic and styrofoam with biodegradable products. You may see some new items on when you purchase food item, for example, and other cups and other containers. And the importers have approached the government to look at reducing the CET, that is the common external tariff, to give them an ease in terms of the price for the alternative product. The government took a decision to remove the application of the customs service charge, which is 6%, in order to give that ease. But the COTE, the Council for Trade and Economic Development of Carriacou, have decided the route to go is to look at the CET reduction. At the last meeting, which I attended in Guyana only last week, some member states applied to go to zero for the duty that was at 15 and 20%, and some member states suspended the CET to apply a rate of 5%. A committee will examine the costs and the benefit of this proposal and come back to Cabinet next Monday to determine for Cabinet to take a decision on what rate will be applied to these products that are entering the market. Because we want to give relief, because we do not want the non-biodegradable products to continue to come into Grenada because of the environmental impact it is having, and therefore Cabinet will critically examine the recommendation of this committee in order to give some relief to the importers of these products. So these are the items that came out of the Cabinet decision. With respect to water, the team from the tariff for Nawasa, the team from Nawasa will join the post-Cabinet briefing as soon as I'm through to explain the tariff rate, and all the details will be given at that time. So I want to thank you for listening. These are the issues that I wish to raise at this moment.
Thank you, Minister. The floor is open for questions from members of the media. Please state your name and your media house. Thank you.
Good morning, Sherry and Noel, GIS. Minister, I have a few questions for you. The first one has to do with the comments you shared as it pertains to TAMCC and the increments and the 2 sets of teachers and so. You said that they're supposed to report to the Minister for Education, the council. And that some of the information coming out is that they are unable to pay for 5 years. You also raised one of the main concerns of many, the fact that CAPE exams is coming and the marking of papers. So what immediate steps would your government be taking to help alleviate this problem so that the children's work can be marked and so?
So what the Cabinet decided, I will tell you what the Cabinet decided yesterday. They submit a committee set up to meet with the council, and they must come up with proposal for the next Cabinet meeting. So the work must be completed this week with how they're going to address the payment, because the issue is the outstanding payment. So this week, the committee will meet with the council, and they must submit a recommendation. That means this recommendation will have to be in before Friday to reach the Cabinet on Monday, and then Cabinet will take the decision on the way forward.
And any information as to the committee, the comprise?
Well, it will comprise of the minister responsible for tertiary education and representative from the council, usually the chairman, the principal, the buzzer. These will be the main people, and they must come up with a proposal to submit to the union in the hope that we can reach a settlement in the matter.
And the next question has to do with the issue of the breathalyzer testing. You mentioned that it has been approved, but they have to have ensuring regulations and so. How far from now can we see this being implemented?
The fact now that Cabinet has approved it, it will go to Legal Affairs to draft for the drafting of the regulation, and then it must be published in the Gazette. As I will say, usually these things will take about 2 weeks to get Legal Affairs to prepare the regulation, send it to the printery, gazette it. Once it's gazetted and given a date, then it comes into effect, and then the police will have the authority to do the breathalyzer testing.
I know much has been said about agriculture and, investment and so. The lease of the land to the Grenada Cocoa Association for construction of the receiving building, how many years lease?
This is a long-term lease that has been given to the Cocoa Association for a period of 33 years. So they have a long-term lease, because government prefer to give a lease than just sell the land to the Cocoa Association so that they can have things. So they have a 33-year lease on the land to construct their receiving station. I'm sure, as I said, that it will please the farmers. Both sides will be pleased. The Cocoa Association is not happy where they are now. The farmers are not happy. And so the fact that they have the land, because they indicate they have the money to build, and all they need is the land. It's a small portion, it's only 3,179 square feet, because a receiving station is not a big station. They just to receive the cocoa, and then it's transferred to the place for processing.
And on the final area that you spoke on in terms of the CET, you said you recently came back from that meeting in Guyana, and some opted to what was, I think is,
Yeah,
to reach, so,
suspend to zero.
right. You said that something as it relates to a committee as well. What was Grenada's decision on that?
Right. Because I did not have a position coming from cabinet, because every time you represent Grenada, to take a position, you have to clear it with cabinet. So I could not join with those who say in 5 or those who say in 0. So what we indicated, well, Grenada and some other countries indicated that it must go back to the cabinet and then inform the secretariat. And the CARICOM secretariat said, fine, let's have your time to consult with your cabinet. So yesterday, the cabinet decided to send it to a committee so that the committee could make the recommendation. Then I will inform CARICOM of what is Grenada's position.
Minister, I just want to ask a follow-up on that. So, yes, you'll inform on Grenada's decision. But do you have like a time frame in mind as how soon you want this implemented? Is it before the end of the year or the start of the new year?
Well, no, that's entirely up to any government, because you want to reduce the CD. So CARICOM cannot tell you when to do it. The member state must decide the rate and the time in which it wants to do it. So, as I said, next Monday at the cabinet meeting, cabinet will decide on the date and the rate, and then the person who is doing the post-cabinet briefing will let the media know.
The 2020 strategic human resource needs for the public service, how does it help to sort of complement the whole attrition policy?
Well, it is that is the basis of the attrition policy, because the attrition policy is to properly manage the reduction in the public service. So this human resource needs for the public service is closely monitored by the Department of Public Administration. So they have put into place a strategy to look at every ministry and every post within the ministry and determine the posts that will be retained and those that can go for attrition. So that is the work that the Department of Public Administration will be doing.
Minister, you might not be the most appropriate person to ask this situation, but I'll still ask with the situation regarding TAMCC. It was mentioned, of course, that papers have not been marked and the students need these for the CAPE exams. What would happen to our students in a situation like this now? Are we at a disadvantage because of this problem?
We'll have to, when the council meet this week, they will have to address that and advise the cabinet of the implications of that. I'm not sure what the implication will be, so I'll wait until we get the report from the council this week to see what are the implications.
Anybody else? Questions from anybody else? All right, it seems as though we have exhausted all our questions. Minister, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on briefly?
Well, except to say that we have just presented the budget and a lot of discussion going around the island. And I must say that we have received some very positive feedback. I'm very pleased with the response that we have received from this year's budget. I think it lays the foundation for economic growth and stability. And I'm very pleased with the outcome and the whole discussion surrounding the budget. That's all I would want to add at this stage.
All right, thank you so very much. That was the Honorable Oliver Joseph, Minister for Trade, Industry, Cooperatives and CARICOM Affairs, and we've looked at a number of issues this morning. The situation at TAMCC as it stands right now, the 2020 Strategic Human Resource Needs for the Public Service, road traffic breathalyzer test for alcohol regulations, approval for lease of a parcel of land to the Cocoa Association to construct a receiving station, and examining the possibility of reducing CET on the alternative to plastics and styrofoam to promote the use of biodegradable products. Go ahead.
Yes, as you had indicated, I just want to clarify the issue with TAMCC. It is not the responsibility of government. It is the responsibility of the council. I've heard it comment that government should pay the $6.2 million. That is not government responsibility. For the Grenada Union of Teachers, we have reached an agreement with them to pay the teachers that are within the public service. We have only about 45 workers. When I say we government, only about 45 workers. The 200 and something other workers are council workers that they appoint, and they are responsible for paying. It is not like, well, government could just give college $6.2 million. Where is it going to come from? Government did not budget to pay that. We give advance payment to TAMCC to run the institution. But we are prepared as a responsible government to work with them for a solution. And that is what Cabinet has decided, that the council must meet this week, come up with a plan, submit it to government, so that government, together with TAMCC, because we have a stake in this, we want to make sure that students' papers are marked, that students are taught, and therefore government will look at all the possibilities that can bring resolution to this issue at TAMCC.
Thank you, Minister, the Honorable Oliver Joseph, Minister for Trade, Industry, Cooperatives and CARICOM Affairs. And as we mentioned before we started the press briefing, we have officials from the National Water and Sewerage Authority here with us this morning. So we will take a quick break and come right back to deal with the NOWASA officials.
An earthquake can happen at any time. Be aware. Drop, cover, hold on. Crouch and cover your head with your arms. Hold firm in an internal doorway. Avoid running outside or using stairs. Stay away from elevators and move away from outer walls, glass windows, and hanging objects. Remember, when the earth quakes, do the DCH. Drop, cover, hold on. Now, are you ready?
Yes! We're ready! Visit WeReady.org, brought to you by SEDIMA and the European Union.
An earthquake can happen at any time. Be aware. Drop, cover, hold on. Crouch and cover your head with your arms. Hold firm in an internal doorway. Avoid running outside or using stairs. Stay away from elevators and move away from outer walls, glass windows, and hanging objects. Remember, when the earth quakes, do the DCH. Drop, cover, hold on. Now, are you ready?
Yes! We're ready! Visit WeReady.org, brought to you by SEDIMA and the European Union.
Cigarette smoke in your home increases your children's risk of asthma, bronchitis, and sudden infant death syndrome. Protect your family from secondhand smoke.
It's hurricane season again.
Have we got a disaster survival kit ready yet?
Not yet, Mia. When it happens, I'll deal with it.
Shakira,
What are you doing?
I'm Shakira.
A hurricane now? I'm not ready.
Tiffany, Mia, a hurricane can happen at any time. You must prepare, protect, and assist. Are you ready?
Yes, we're ready!
awaits me. Holding my breath, reaching up to take me. Holding my breath, the whole world awaits me. Holding my breath, reaching up to take me. Take my breath away. The whole world awaits me. You take my breath away. You take my breath away.
And we are back with you once again. As promised, we have the officials from the National Water and Sewage Authority with us. From January 2020, NWASA will apply new water rates as part of a tariff reform. This measure was announced on Friday, November 22nd, 2019, by Public Utilities Minister, the Honorable Gregory Bowen, as part of his presentation to Parliament. We have the Chairman of NWASA's Board of Directors, Mr. Anthony McLeish, and the General Manager, Mr. Christopher Husbands, and they will be engaging members of the media at this time. So, gentlemen, I hand over to you now.
Hi. Good morning to ladies and gentlemen of the press. Yes, right. You got it? Yeah. And welcome to this press briefing. As a result of the recent announcement by the Minister Bowen on the increase in the tariffs for the National Water and Sewage Authority. And I'm sure that you would want to hear all the details of it, so I would waste no more time and introduce Mr. Christopher Husbands, who will give us a presentation and give you some more explanation on the tariff increases. Mr. Husbands.
Thank you very much. Morning to members of the media and morning to your viewers and listeners. Just try to distill this in a brief presentation to capture the essence of it, and I'm pretty sure there will be some questions that will come up after that will give opportunity for us to elaborate some more. NWASA, what's our vision? Our vision is to be a premier water utility providing excellent service to all customers, fostering a healthy and productive nation. And we still live by our vision and our mission, and this is part of what we will discuss today. This is another means to enable us to get there. Our mission statement, which has not changed, to provide customers with a safe, adequate, and reliable water supply and safe disposal of wastewater in a viable and efficient manner that meets and exceeds customer expectations and ensures the development of our organization, communities, and our nation. And again, persons will note the use of the word wastewater here, which is something I think that many times persons forget. Our system, we basically have 27 surface water sources, an average daily production of 7 million gallons a day, and we have 6 groundwater resources with a maximum capacity of 1.1 million gallons per day. So we have a total production capacity now of 8.1 million gallons per day. And I can tell you, this has not changed significantly in the last 15 years. And this is part of the challenge that we're confronting. We do have to invest in further production to meet the growing demands of the population and economy. We have a customer base now of 39,000. On the wastewater side, we only have 2 sewage collection and disposal systems. We only do preliminary treatment. Oh.
Okay, viewers, we need to just get something rectified here because there's supposed to be a slide presentation going on. So let's just see if we can rectify that, and then we will come back to you, Mr. Husband, because we just want to ensure that everybody can follow as closely as possible. So let's take a quick break, and we will come right back to you.
Global warming and sea level rise are of increasing concern to coastal communities of the Caribbean. Approximately 70% of this problem is caused by the production.
Seven surface water sources with an average production capacity of 7 million gallons per day. We have 6 groundwater resources, 6 different wells, with a maximum capacity of 1.1 million gallons per day. So we have a total production capacity of 8.1 million gallons per day and a customer base of 39,000. That includes Carriacou and Petit Martinique. On the wastewater side, we have 2 sewage collection and disposal systems. We only do preliminary treatment, screening, and disposal, and we have those 2 systems. One covers an area in the town of St. George, and the other covers the south of the island, an area stretching from Fall Edge down to Frequency. This town of St. George has a capacity of about 190,000 gallons per day, and the Grand Anse is a larger system with 395,000 gallons per day. We have 200 employees. We covered under 3 industrial agreements, 1 with the Public Workers Union and 2 with the Technical and Allied Workers Union. We are a statutory body. We generate our income from the sale of water, and we depend on the sale of water to meet our operating expenses and, most importantly, to provide for capital development, investment in the system. NAWASA was created in 1992, and when it was created in 1992, it was created without any adjustment in the water rate at the time. We've had 1 rate increase, which was in 2010, so that was 18 years to the first water rate increase. We're now approaching the 10-year mark. Since the last tariff, we've spent $37.8 million over the last 10 years using internally generated funds to improve the network every single year. We've gotten to the point where, for us to go forward, we recognized, and as was in our strategic plan, that we need to do a tariff review again after that 2010. So we started this process in September of 2018. It was an open competitive tendering process, placed an advertisement, companies responded. We did the necessary evaluations, and we arrived at a selection. A company out of the US, Raftelis Consulting, and for those who are wanting to do some further research, I've included the web address there. They're a consulting company out of the US. They were contracted in April, and they completed their report at the end of last month, October 2019. The goals of their study were to review NAWASA's current tariff and evaluate alternative tariffs. They would develop an excess model, which is our financial model that we now will be using to go forward and work with over the next 10 years. And they were to provide a sustainable financial plan and propose tariffs to take us for at least 5 years. The intention is we would have shorter periodic reviews. A review doesn't mean an increase, but it is good practice to review your tariffs on a more consistent basis to allow for better planning, rather than go 18 years the first time, and now we've gone 10 years on this one. These are the snippets of the consultant's recommendations. These aren't NAWASA's words, these are the consultant's words as part of their report. If rates are not adjusted, we project NAWASA will run a deficit next year, will not meet the debt service coverage requirements of its lenders, and will have no cash in its fund balance by 2022. And their overall conclusion was the current rates are not sufficient. What are some of the major things we need financing for? You know, we hear often from the public by many different forms a lot of the issues persons have with their level of service. And it's not for want of recognizing these challenges, but it's a matter of capturing and scoping projects that will address the issues in a systematic way, and of course getting funding. And as I'll show you later on, it's not just getting funding approved, it's getting a check that you can write. Our 10-year capital plan can be summarized as follows. We project $45 million for investments in what we're calling information technology. And these are improvements in areas of the network that are going to aid significantly in customer service and customer experiences, and of course, what we are able to do. We have to replace all the meters throughout the island, right? We are using a 20-year-old technology that has significantly improved, and with the new ultrasonic meters that have a different capability, customers themselves have the ability, using portals, to look at their own consumption on a daily basis. So you don't have to wait for NAWASA meter reader to come once a month and take a reading and wait for your bill. You have access to your meter just like we do. You can see what's happening at any point in time throughout the month. A new customer information system, and you know, the thing with making a technological investment is that it all has to be tied together. For you to get the maximum benefit, all the different modules have to be in sync, be compatible, and be able to support each other. A new customer information system, what we call a SCADA system, which allows remote operation and monitoring of the treatment plants. You know, one of the issues we have right now with persons receiving quality that they don't like, and in many cases we don't like either, is that a lot of our treatment plants are not, you don't have a physical presence in the night. So you will finish a shift at 4 or 5 p.m. in the afternoon, and you will set the plant based on certain parameters. When conditions change overnight, there's nobody to respond to it. By the time a worker gets up there next morning, conditions have changed, quality has changed, quality is compromised, and the entire customer experience is affected. So a SCADA system is an investment that's going to allow us, without having to put persons on treatment plants 24 hours a day. In many of our treatment plants are in remote areas. So you don't have certain basic things like electricity, etc., and comforts for persons. But it's also more efficient if we can link our treatment plants together using an operating system that allows us to centralize persons at one point and have access to the treatment plants throughout the entire 24-hour cycle. Our GIS system is part of this that basically allows us to georeference all locations and have a better handle on where things are, where our our issues occur, keep track of them, and that's important data. And of course, one that is directly related to the meters and the customer information system is our billing system. And a part of that, a number of persons are calling for electronic billing. That is something that we definitely need to enter into, and it certainly will be a major factor in allowing persons a more timely experience with settling of their bills. On the wastewater side, we project $23 million to construct 2 new wastewater plants and to expand the collection facilities on the existing systems. We project another $25 million in production facilities. We have to build a new treatment plant in St. Andrews on the Walker River. We have to do a new treatment plant in Vendôme. We have a number of new treatment facilities that have to be constructed to replace old infrastructure that has been there, and in the case of the St. Andrews one, develop a new water source to be able to supply a growing demand area. On the pipeline upgrade side, we project $85 million in doing pipeline work in a number of different areas. And, pipeline work is expensive, and it's expensive in large part because the cost of the road repair is very expensive. I know persons say now, "Asa, dig up road and we don't fix it," but I don't think you could say that again. Many times you don't fix the road, it's circumstances beyond our control because we don't control the supply of materials. So just with our projection at this point, we need to finance $178 million in capital investment. These aren't pie-in-the-sky ideas. These are projects that have been already scoped. These are projects that have been analyzed, and these are projects that are implementable. Other than the 178 that we have to find funding for, we must recognize that we've been very fortunate. We have 2 major projects that are ongoing, that are approved, and that are significant. We have all heard of the Green Climate Fund project. That's the largest single investment in the water sector to date. That's $125 million. And that project is primarily focused on the whole question of storage, both on the raw water side, new raw water supply systems so that we can pull from in the dry season when the surface river sources drop, and also a number of treated water storage tanks. So conditions like what are taking place now, where you have significantly heavy rain last night, and some of the rivers are turbid, which is a natural process. We want to be able to shut down the plant now and continue the supply from treated water. When the plant gets back going, when the conditions subside, which is a natural process, we are able to fill the tanks back up. So this is an area that we're lacking storage, both on the raw water side and on the treated water side. The other project is the UK SIF. This is $45 million. And this one is a project that was designed primarily to augment the supply to the south of the island, the commercial, residential, high growth area in the south of the island. But I put some time frames here, and I want us to reflect on that. The GCF project, we're likely going to see boots on the ground in July 2020. Actually, today an email came that indicated that the project is now effected, meaning all the paperwork necessary to be able to start spending money on this project was approved within the last 24 hours. We presented this project, we prepared this project in September of 2015. The project was approved by the board in February of 2018, and it has only, the administrative arrangements have only been finalized today. So this has an implementation of July 2020 to December 2025. The UK SIF project, this came out of Prime Minister Cameron's visit in 2015. We prepared this project in 2016. This project is likely going to have boots on the ground. The consultants are still working September 2020 to December 2021. And the reason I'm highlighting this is that, concessionary financing, grant funding is critical, it's valuable, it's necessary. But when you don't control your own purse, you don't control the time with which you can do things. So some of these projects here, the issues that we scoped 4 years ago, 5 years ago, are still present on the ground. Customers are still feeling the effects of it. But we don't control the disbursement schedule because grant funding, big institutions have their own project life cycle. And one of the issues we want to address by being able to implement this new tariff increase is to have a better control over our capital investment schedule so that we will now be accessing concessionary sources of financing that will likely have some debt component, of course, but you have a greater ability to control your implementation schedule. What does the new rate look like? Some persons, I'm sure, are going to ask me, I thought you all were doing something more than that. I'm not seeing part of this here. Sorry. So, under the current side, this is what our water rate is now. So on the domestic side, we have what you call an increasing block rate. We have the first 2,800 gallons, you pay $8.10 for the 2,800 gallons. That moves up to $9.48. The next category moves from $13.50 to $15.80. And the large volume category on the domestic moves from $20.25 to $23.70. This is per 1,000 gallons. Your fixed monthly charge moves from $10.80 to $12.64. So it's not even $2. On the non-domestic side, the variable component moves from $21.35 per 1,000 gallons to $29.35 per 1,000 gallons. And the non-domestic, their fixed monthly charge is fixed on an annual basis, and it's based on your previous year's consumption. So the persons who now have a fixed monthly charge of $15, if all things stay the same, their fixed monthly charge will go up by $5. Those with the $33.75 category will go up to $46.35. So that is a new rate structure. Let me give you an idea of what it means. For the, just, let me pause a minute, please. Let me pause. Just pause for me. Just, I thought that you can pause live. and you pause live for me just now and tell me 3, 2. All right. I have the wrong one. That's the wrong one. Which one? That's the last one, P5.
Yeah, hold on.
All right. So this is giving an idea of the impact. So persons in the domestic category who are within the 700,000 gallons per month, this may be a one person in a house kind of setup, they would have a current monthly bill of $16.47. Their monthly bill will go up to $19.28, so an increase of $2.81. And that is a component of the fixed and the variable. The average person, small household that's in the 2,400 gallon per month category that has a current monthly bill of $30.24, their monthly bill will go up to $35.39, so an increase of $5. And persons in the higher domestic category, someone paying $60 a month now for water, will go up to pay $70, so an increase of $10 for the month. On the non-domestic side, again, the smaller non-domestic user You know, this may be someone with a small shop that doesn't have a lot of consumption, but is conducting business activity. Their current monthly bill would be $23.54 now. That would go up by $8. The larger users will go up by $21 and $83 respectively. This gives some more details on, this is the domestic side, right? So just put this up so persons can have some more. So if your monthly bill is now $40, it will go up by $40, it will go up by about $6, $7. If your monthly bill now is $20, it'll go up by about $3. If your monthly bill is $70 now, it would go up by about $11. This just gives a feel for persons in different categories, what kind of monthly, and this is per month. Where are we? This gives an idea of where Grenada is compared to the rest of the region. And basically, in spite of the increase, we are still one of the lowest priced. And this says, it says the first block, because rather than make it too complicated, this is just the first block rates. Most people have increasing blocks. As we showed you there, we have 3 blocks, the prices change. So this is just what you would call the entry-level block. And it just shows that, again, we are still very competitive and affordable regionally. So the benefits of this, as I said, significantly more investment in the water sector. We can only improve the water sector if we put the necessary capital investment to fix, develop, upgrade, and improve what the infrastructure is out there. A lot of our infrastructure is still 40, 50 years old. Population has increased. The infrastructure itself has deteriorated. So we have to put the necessary investment in it. All of this is designed to get an improved level of service, both reliability and, of course, the whole question of quality. Water is still very cheap. I said earlier, the domestic water, the first block in the domestic category will now be $9.48 for 1,000 gallons. That is less than 1 cent a gallon. So every single domestic user, for your first 2,800 gallons of water, you are paying less than 1 cent. So even if we round it off as, you can't even pay us 1 cent now because ECCB don't have that ticket, right? On the non-domestic side, the non-domestic has a fixed variable rate, which is $29.35 per 1,000 gallons, which is basically 3 cents for a gallon of water. So I'm sure we're all capable of comparing this rate with other gallon type purchases, consumer products out there. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Is there something you would like to add, sir?
Yeah, just before we proceed, and I'm certain that the press would have a number of questions for Mr. Husbands, and I'm sure he's anxious to get to them. But as speaking from the board's point of view, I would like to compliment the management and the technical team of NWASA. I think that they have done an excellent job in planning the way forward, and I trust that that NWASA per se will get the support that they need, because this is essential for the development, the continued development of our country. And without saying much more, I'm going to invite the press to ask Mr. Husbands any questions that they may have. Oh, that's a good sign. That means they have understood everything.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Husbands and Mr. McLeish. Questions from the media? And again, please identify yourselves and your media house. Okay, Mr. Husbands, this, based on all the rates and all that you've shown, how much revenue do you project you will collect on an annual basis?
From the increase. Yeah, we're projecting an additional $7 million. Yeah.
You mentioned about upgrading all meters. When are you planning to start that work?
That work, I would expect us to start that by the second half of next year. As I said earlier on, once you're getting an IT infrastructure going, all the parts have to fit together. So we're in the process. The Government of Grenada Ministry of Implementation entered into an MOU last year with the Canadian consultant, co-author, and they are assisting us in getting that direction. So it's not just changing the meters, but it's finding a meter that has the peculiar conditions that are optimal for us, that has a CIS, a customer information system that we want that will support the billing, the SCADA. So we have to put all the pieces together to make sure that when we put this IT infrastructure in place, it's seamless. So that is a delay. We're actually going to be embarking on 2 pilot projects very shortly. We will announce those when we finalize the documents. But these are, again, using different meter assets, suppliers that are saying, listen, install 50 of my meters, run the system for a few months, let it prove itself. So we are going to be doing 2 pilots within the next month, 2-3 months, in different parts using different meters to get a feel for their operation, their capability, their accuracy, and their resilience.
You mentioned a few challenges if you don't do this. In the beginning, you mentioned some challenges. How are you able to operate / survive over the last few years at that level? And also, you're also involved as much as possible in community activities. How were you able to do all that, staying at the rates that you were on for the last few years?
Well, it's been a balancing act. I'm pretty sure some members of staff would say they feel they should have been paid more. And some persons are correct. But it's a matter of balancing your competing needs. The one area that we really and truly have not done enough in is capital investment. So we've put our priority into operations, but you can only defer your investment for so long. And that's basically what we've been doing, right? As I said, over the 10 years, we've done $36 million. That can't upgrade. That can't put the water system where it needs to be. So when you switch on the pipe, you don't get discolored water. That can't put the water system where it should be. So you have water 24 hours a day, right? That can't put the water system where it should be. So we're not digging up certain roads on a consistent basis because the lines need changing. So at the end of the day, we've been able to make it. We've improved significantly. But in a sense, we have deferred important capital investment that we need to prioritize and do.
Yeah,
the rates, we're still, based on what we saw, we're still very low. How should I phrase this? Why? I mean, nobody wants an increase, but this is, to me, a reasonable increase. Why just that level right now? Because we're still very competitive, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't have the ability to speak for the government. I see Minister Joseph here. But, the consultants were given a brief that naturally would require them to look at what is needed for NAWASA and also look at the whole question of the socioeconomic conditions in the country and the fact that there are naturally other competing sectors that also need attention. So certainly from, NAWASA's end, we would be happy with whatever rate increase we get, the most we can get. But what has been demonstrated here is that what is proposed, what is approved, certainly puts us in a good position. And as I said, it's a kind of system that we will be put in place to have more frequent periodic reviews. So if another increase is needed, it's not a large increase, and it allows the organization to continue to grow without having periods of time when your resources are certainly reducing. Or, as I said, in our case, we were deferring capital. There's a lot more capital that we have to do, and we have to get going on it with urgency.
All right, I think one of my colleagues says she has a question, but there are two things I just want to round up for you. Can you just talk to us about some of the projects that you have island-wide right now, because you're doing all of these under the constraints that you're working with right now. So some of the projects, just that the public can understand, you're constrained for the moment, you have some challenges if you don't increase the rates, but still, you're doing what you can do.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Well, right now what we have going, we've done over the last 6 months, a lot of lines replacement in St. Patrick's. Persons from that parish will, of course, see the work that's going on and understand that these were lines that were undersized and in poor condition, constantly breaking. We're now completing that section between Plains and Rose Hill. We did a section in High Street already. We're about to start a new treatment plant in Munich, which is a project that has been in the works for a while to significantly improve the treatment capability and the quality for the persons in Munich. We're going to be doing a project in Upper St. John's to improve the situation for the people in Blaze. We, under the projects that I spoke about, the GCF and the UK SIF, as I said, those are the UK SIF one is basically a project targeted to the south of the island. And in a nutshell, what we're going to be doing there is bringing a new source of supply from Concord down into the Grand Anse area and reallocating part of what is now supplied to Grand Anse to areas like Calavini, Egmont, that southeastern area there, all the way going, I would say, to Wester Hall. Those persons have been supplied by the groundwater wells. The groundwater wells, of course, are very expensive to operate, but more importantly, the groundwater wells have been working continuously for 30 years. And we need to do some well rehabilitation, part of which is going to involve resting those wells for a bit, so that we're using the wells more in the dry season. When there's enough surface water, we want to be able to supply everybody. We know people prefer the quality and the taste of surface water. We prefer using it, of course, also. We don't use it when we can't. But that will allow us to improve the efficiency of our operation using the surface water, and it would give a better customer experience, because a number of the customers in these areas naturally do have some issues with the groundwater. As I tell persons when they tell me, I understand. If we had a different supply, we would give you. Up until this point, we don't have a different supply, so we're giving you what we have. But as I'm saying, now with the new project, we would be able to offer at least for a part of the year a surface water system, and we are confident, and based on research that is done and research that will be done on these aquifers, I'm pretty sure and I'm pretty confident in saying that once the wells are operated in an intermittent fashion, even the existing wells will have a better quality.
Okay. You kind of answered my second question, the GCF and UK SIF projects. But do they mean additional employment on a contractual / part-time basis for some people?
Yeah, the projects, of course, are going to require significant human resources to implement. And those are 3-4 year projects. In terms of permanent employment, we're reviewing that structure at the moment and looking at ways that we can be more efficient.
Thank you very much, Mr. Husbands.
Okay.
Colleagues?
Sherry and Noel again, GIS. I have 2 questions. The first part I would like to ask either yourself or the chair can answer. Did any thought go into reforming or restructuring the way NAWASA operates instead of increasing the bills, the rate?
Reform in what way?
The way you do business, overall how you operate, so at least you could cut in one way to balance in the other?
Well, that's a constant. As I think that also kind of, maybe I should have included that in the answer to Johnson just now about what we've done in the last time period. We've been trying to be more efficient, and that was part of what we've been doing, is trying to streamline and be more efficient over the last certainly 5-10 years. So that is a work in process. I just said it also when I was asked about the future employment and numbers. We rationalizing, we constantly looking at ways to be more efficient. So that is still being done. The consultants looked at it also, and I think they recognize that we're not by any means significantly overstaffed. They could find no areas that they can consider large inefficiencies or wastage because they're not there. So that was done, and that will continue to happen. But with the kind of capital that's needed, you can't do that by just restructuring. There's significant investment. Water infrastructure is expensive. When you go to the hardware store and you buy a length of half-inch pipe, look at the cost of it. We have to buy miles of 12-inch, 10-inch pipe. It's expensive.
And part two, I know Ms. Johnson would have asked you a bit about the minimal rates. You mentioned the fact of your present financial status, and you also mentioned the fact that the rates are very minimal. My question to you, although I heard you mention about treatment plans and so that you have plans on doing, but I thought you would have made some mention as to the issues that occur year after year in the dry spells. I know you mentioned a couple of treatment plans, but exactly what is NAWASA's plan? Because you know us. You tell me increase rates between January going down to May. I don't want to hear clean covered containers.
Right. Well, you hear clean covered containers even in the mighty United States of America. So let's say clean covered containers. You shouldn't be hearing it as often as you hear it, but it's a fact of a water supply network. That GCF, that $125 million, is heavily focused on the whole question of storage, especially raw water storage. Persons meet you often and they tell you, what's the problem is storage. We know it's storage. But what I would elaborate on is we are deficient in both types of storage, right? As I tell persons sometimes, you can't build, treated water storage is expensive. You can't build elevated storage tanks to take you through a seasonal variation. You don't have space, you don't have money to build that. The treated water storage tanks are to balance short-term supply and demand and to ensure quality is maintained, so that if there's a breakdown on the plant, the customer must not know. If the river is dirty, the customer must not know. The customer must continue to get one level of service, one type of quality, whether it's coming straight from the plant at a particular time in the day or whether it's coming from the treated water reservoir at a particular time. You at home opening your tap should never know the difference. On the raw water side, we need what you would call a reservoir with 35, 40, 50 million gallons of water stored in its raw state, and then you extract from that throughout the dry season to keep the treatment plant at one level. What's happening now? The river is like this, flowing like this. In the dry season, it drops. So the production has to drop because we have no other source of augmenting the water source in the river. So that's one of the major projects that we are in. As I say, the GCF is a climate resilience project, and a big part of climate resilience is water security and water storage, to balance what are expected to be the climatic variations to come. So we think is the GCF going to do it all? No. But it's a major step, and it will be a significant improvement in what happens. I mean, you can have extreme weather conditions, you could have an extremely bad drought. God alone will tell us that. But under normal conditions, what is proposed when implemented will significantly revolutionize what's there. A lot of the mains replacement I spoke about also has a factor in that, because as you continue to address your non-revenue, as you continue to address leaks in your system, there's more water available for consumers to use. Every time you have a leak, water is wasted, the pressures in the system are affected, supply to persons are affected, the quality is affected. They're all related. When you have a good infrastructure, when you have good pipes that are not bursting on you, there is a direct impact on persons' level of service and what supply they're going to get.
And finally, from me, on a side note, I just want to ask you a bit about the process. I am happy that you mentioned leaks and so. When your team goes out and fix broken mains, what is the process, or who is responsible for repairs to the roads and so, and what is the time span at which it has to be done?
Okay. So we have a contract with a private company to repair the roads. The roads are supposed to be repaired in a 2 to 3 day period. But we have to bear in mind that, most of the roads we do are hot mix asphalt. You only get permission to use coal mix, which is cheaper, in a hot mix road if hot mix is not available. We've been, the supply of hot mix has been a factor, and it's a factor on twofold. One, when it's available, when it's not available, it's not available. That's a fact. But more importantly, when there aren't large road projects going on, even if asphalt is available on the island, the asphalt plant is not going to start up to produce 1 ton of asphalt. Right? When you have large road projects happening and the plant is working, you can come into the asphalt plant and order 2 tons of asphalt because they're producing 50 tons, so making 2 tons for you is no problem. When there are no large projects, you can't get an order for 2 tons. You have to have a minimum order quantity. We are, so you repair a pipe in Grand Mall today. That may take 1/4 of a ton of asphalt. But I can't buy a 1/4 ton of asphalt for that. So sometimes the reality is, even though the contractor has 2 or 3 days to complete this by contract, until he has enough material to order 10 tons of asphalt, he's not going to get the asphalt. So that repair that I'm hypothetically saying occurred on your route in Grand Mall may stay open for a week because he has to fix a number of places throughout to get the volume of asphalt, to go to the plant, to tell the plant, start up for me. I need asphalt. And I don't think persons understand this. So it's not that the road is dug and it's ignored, no. But these are some of the constraints that we continue to try to work around. Coal mix roads are easier because the contractor can produce his own coal mix. Challenge with coal mix, of course, is weather dependent. So you have a road that's a busy thoroughfare. You say, okay, we're going to repair that on Sunday. So you would have wanted to repair it on Thursday, but for traffic considerations, inconvenience, you say Sunday. And then Sunday rain come down. You can't put on the asphalt when the place wet. All of that contributes to time. Because when you put down the asphalt when it's too wet, it's not going to last. So sometimes you're balancing traffic inconvenience, which either way, the public naturally sometimes is always adversely affected. Okay? I mean, I was going to Grand Anse the other day and I late. And I stopped for about 5 minutes. And when I reach this now, I start blocking the road. Yeah, so I know how it is, right? But that's just the reality. We try to minimize it. We try our best to minimize inconveniences to persons. But the challenges and the realities are what they are. And that's what I'm saying. A lot of consequential effects will not be there if we have a good network. If you have pipes in the ground that are good quality, if you have a treatment plant that's, not producing, in some cases we're trying to, as I told my production guys at a meeting recently, in some cases to meet the growing demand with the plants that we have, we are stretching the envelope. I prefer we cut back on some supply, give somebody 4 hours water less for the day, but give them good quality. But we try, because the plants are bursting at their capacity now and need improving, in many cases the quality is compromised, and that level of service that we have to achieve is also compromised.
Thank you, Mr. Husbands. Mr. McLeish, is there anything else you would like to add? We're good? All right. Colleagues, are we good? All right. Thank you very much, everybody. I think we have exhausted our time. You want to?
I don't think I can end without, first of all, let me say a few thank yous. Let me first of all thank Minister Joseph and the government for approving the tariff increase. And persons have to understand that at the end of the day, we're an organization of the state, so you have to get your government support and political will to effect the tariff increase. Also, I would have made mention of those 2 big capital development projects, the GCF, the 125 million, and the UK SIF 40 million. Again, this is grant funds. We access grant funds with government's approval. So I want to place that on record and thank the government for the support. I also want to, of course, thank the staff, the management and staff at NAWASA, who continue, in spite of the challenges, to do a good job and try our best. You have a crew in the road that is repairing a pipe, and the public is not pleased. They're doing their job. Again, our job is to get good infrastructure that you're not constantly. So, somebody will pass, they're digging up the road again. We ain't digging up the road because we want to dig up the road. The guys out there working aren't blocking traffic because they want to block traffic. We're blocking traffic, we're digging up the road because we're trying our best to make do with infrastructure that needs changing. And so I want to place on record the thanks to the staff for their effort. And of course the consumers, right? Because really and truly we recognize that the consumers themselves, persons have significantly improved in their compliance and payment of their bills. And I also want to state that, right? The response of the public to paying their water rates has improved tremendously, right? I want to thank persons for that compliance and encourage persons to support NAWASA as we go forward. Pay your bills on time, of course. And we ensure you that it's a chicken and an egg. We need to raise the rates. We need to have the cash flow to take on the loans, to do the work. And then, at the end of the day, there will be a significantly improved customer experience and level of service. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Husbands. All right, so there we had it, a lot of information from the General Manager of the National Water and Sewage Authority, Mr. Christopher Husbands, and supporting him, Mr. Anthony McLeish, Chairman of NAWASA's Board of Directors, and supporting behind the scenes the public relations officials, Mrs. Jamila Samuel and Miss Wendy Chateau. So we have a lot to report on today. And of course, before that, we had the Honorable Oliver Joseph, Minister for Trade, Industry, Cooperatives, and Carriacou Affairs. So let's do a good job today, and thank you so much for viewing.
The government of Grenada is making good on its commitment to reconstruct the Simone Cultural Center in St. Andrew. With Phase 1 complete that saw the demolition of the existing pavilion, work is now far advanced on Phase 2 of the project, which scope of works includes fencing of the perimeter at a contracted cost of $200,000. Our State of Affairs team accompanied Honorable Kate Lewis, Member of Parliament for the constituency of St. Andrew North East, on a tour of the project. The reconstruction of the facility, she says, is important not only for her constituents, but the entire country, as major cultural events were held at the venue prior to its destruction by the passage of Hurricane Ivan on September 7, 2004. Minister Lewis outlined the scope of works already undertaken and highlighted the fact that already a number of young men from the area have gained employment from Phase 1 and 2 of the project.
And what we are seeing here is actually the second phase of the Simon Cultural Center project. Last year we did the first phase, which was the demolition of the old structure. So in the second phase, the fencing of the grounds for the cultural center. It is important that we fence before we start the construction because we need to protect the materials and everything else that will be there. So what you are seeing happening now is the preparation for the actual fencing. So you'll see some of the holes been dug and the poles been planted or so. But this is the second phase. So far, the contract has already been signed and the work is taking place. The contractor is on scene with some of the workers here. We expect to have, throughout the whole project, over 20-30 persons involved on a rotation basis employed in the fencing phase of this project. The estimated cost of this project is almost $200,000. We had budgeted over $300,000, but based on the work that has to be done, it's over $200,000.
Due to the number of years that the site has been left unattended, community members have used it for their personal interest. One such interest is that of a mechanic. While this is so, Minister Lewis says dialogue has already been had with the individual, who has since given the commitment to remove the derelict vehicles from the site well in advance of Phase 3 of the project.
Yes, because the area seemed to be abandoned for quite some time, we have a mechanic set up here where he usually would do his mechanic work. But what has happened, we have already spoken to him. He's cooperating very well and has planned and is prepared to move the vehicles as soon as we are ready.
The Simon Cultural Center will be upgraded from what it was initially to a more modern facility with a number of added amenities.
The Simon Cultural Center will mean a lot for us in the community of Paradise and Simon. We have seen, myself growing up in this community, the economic benefits that the Cultural Center brought to the residents of this area, being able to generate an income with the amount of shows, the cultural activities that would normally take place here. So I know everybody is happy, even at the national level, because it signifies, the interest and the importance of culture to us as a people. And I'm happy that, we are well on the way to bring back our Simon Cultural Center. We are going to be doing a modern structure, a climate-smart building, catering for the needs of everyone. Of course, we want to maintain the traditional aspect of it, where we had the pavilion setting. We're going to have that again. We will have downstairs a pavilion, office spaces where we can have skills training for our young people within the surrounding areas. Well, the intention of this project is to bring back the the Melody Papitet semi-finals back to Simon where it really belongs. Everybody used to look forward to that Sunday, that Carnival Sunday where you had the Melody Papitet semi-finals, and I myself looked forward to it then, and will be doing so now.
Phase 2 of the project has been contracted out to Kurt Rennie. He spoke to the scope of work already carried out and the importance of the project to the people of the community.
The project has started this week, making it 3 weeks, right? And so far we are in the phase of casting the poles. We already dig the hole, dig the trench, and right now we're in the casting phase of the poles.
How many men do you have with you to execute this job?
At present we'll be working on rotation, We'll try to do it in phase. So in this phase we have at least 8 men. And the next phase after, which is pulling up the fence, we'll hire a different set. So in all, it might come up to about 40 workers. The perimeter is 1,700 feet, which will be included barbed wire, the casting, the footing, and fencing. So that's basically it.
Are you the ones who erecting the gates at the front as well?
Basically, no, the project manager, he determines where the gates go, and we establish it.
I'm also seeing some excavation on the sides for the roadway and so.
Basically, the roadway is to access to the people in the village in the back. So they give them one entrance on this end and then the next one on the end, which is accessible for them.
To ensure that residents are not affected in any way by the ongoing construction, 2 access roads have been opened.
Usually the residents would pass through the Simon Cultural Center area to get to their homes. But we did not want to disadvantage, and as a result of that, two new roads have been worked on presently, as you can see, so that they can gain access, one at the front and one at the back. So they have 2 roads in which they can use to access their homes. The residents are extremely happy because they know what the Simon Cultural Center could do for them in terms of, the economic benefits they will receive. They are actually excited and cannot wait for the project to really come on stream and be completed.
One resident spoke of the importance of the project.
I feel good about that. It's good to have the community center in Simon to build the place. Simon need to develop. You need to have more activities going on in Grenada and more.
The draft plan of what the Simon Cultural Center and its environ will look like on completion will be unveiled to the community ahead of commencement of work on Phase 3 of the project. And that's the state of affairs. I am Sherry Noel. Significant progress 3.5 months after the sod was turned, signaling the commencement of work on the Government of Grenada and the OPEC Fund for International Development St. Patrick Road Upgrade Project. The St. Patrick project is part of 24 other projects that were approved by Cabinet in April 2019. The construction of culverts, drains, retaining walls and concrete reinforced sidewalks has been awarded to Caribbean Consolidated Contractors Limited (CCC). On Monday, CCC's site superintendent Joseph Maitland updated GIS on the progress of work at Belmont, Callaloo, The Wharf and Grugru Bailey Hill. Our first stop was at the site in Belmont, where a massive 100-meter-long retaining wall is under construction.
This is the beginning of the Sotter's Hermitage Rehabilitation Project. All right, we are tackling all the major aspect of the work, which will include like all the major structure of retaining wall, box culvert, and all the major cuts in terms of expansion of road widening. All right, here we are now in Belmont. Well, this is one of our major retaining structure in Belmont. It's almost 100 meters long. All right, we started this on the 16th of last month. Right now we are 45% in completion. Okay, we have a numerous around 65 people working on the project, which includes like foremen, masons, carpenters, but basically all of them are Grenadians. Mostly the whole project is spearheaded by the engineer and the project manager, who is expatriate. But the majority aspect of everybody working here are totally Grenadians.
On completion of the construction of the retaining wall, the following scope of works will have to be carried out.
All right, the next step, as you see, it's the retaining wall basically responsible for the expansion of road widening. We are doing road widening here. What you realize, you see the height of the wall. So after this wall is completed, we have to backfill this wall in layers by layers. Make sure it's within the requirement of the specs, because we have to do it layer by layer compaction and bring it up to the elevation which is given for the road level. There is a specific elevation for the road level which is responsible. So when we finish construct this wall, we will backfill it right up and to the elevation of the road, and then we take it from there.
How much foot stemming and the stem at the bottom is how thick? How?
It's 40, all right? And it's reached up to, I think, 30 to the top. All right, basically the stem is wider, but as the walls goes down, he has a structure where he comes back up to the top at 30 centimeters.
Civil technician at WI Consults, Christian DeBellet, was on site and says thus far all the construction work are being done to specification.
On the project, we are responsible for design and supervision. So essentially, we did these essential designs, everything, and now we're supervising to ensure that it's done to that standard.
In terms of the design and so, is it that you all had to do was testing part of your all work? And tell us about your design and specification as to what has to happen here in order for it to be passed.
Well, testing was done initially, and there's continuous testing throughout. For example, the concrete is tested, the sub-base, sub-grade, everything is tested to meet requirements. If not, you fail and have to do it over.
One of the hindrances to the smooth execution of the project, Mr. Matlin says, is the electricity pole that is yet to be relocated by Grenlec.
You see, but everything had to coordinate it because there is public utilities who's supposed to be working along with us, like Grenlec, Nawasa. So far, Nawasa is 100% in cooperation with us. Whenever you have a problem, we just inform them and they are here. But Grenlec has came. They had already identified all the poles that's supposed to remove. You notice there is one at the location at Belmont, which is right in the excavation part of the job. And as far as you go, you will notice that there are several poles that is within that. In order to commence the work to the pace we want to go, all these poles have to be relocated.
Our next stop was at an area in Hermitage referred to as the Callaloo, where excavation work on a retaining wall and the box culvert is presently being carried out by Faria Construction Company.
We are commencing our second major retaining wall. All right, it's a distance of 65 meters long. All right, what you are seeing here right now is that to commence the work, to finish it at the required time, what we did is that we have a few local subcontractors. And in this aspect of this job here, Faria Construction is doing this retaining wall. All right, the base is 3.8 meters wide. That's the base of the wall. But then the same format is just like the one down at Belmont. The stem will be 40 and it rises up to. But the height of this one is 5 meters. All right. What you are seeing here right now is that we are preparing the excavation. The company, we are doing the excavation, preparing, and then they do the blinding. When they blind, that is for the formation to place in the steel. You must have to stabilize the ground first, compact it, stabilize it, blast the rock, whatever is required. Make sure it's stabilized. The inspector from DW will come and inspect to see it is required, what we are looking for, and then we start the formwork. So what you are doing basically right now is excavating and preparing for the base formation. So this is where you will find that the river been doing some tremendous hazard around this area. The existing before this area normally overflow all the time. All around, the water overflow the banks and it flood the area. What we are doing here now, we are reconstructing a new massive box culvert. All right, we is in the initial stage. We did the blinding, and right now we are doing the formation of the steelwork. All right, this is also being subbed to Faria Construction. All right, the length of it is 8.2 of the box culvert. The width is 8.6. It varies to a height about 2.7 height. So that would be able to adequate the flow of the water. At least it would facilitate all the overflow of the water. So what you see we are doing here now is that we did a diversion, which we are standing here right now, so we could accommodate the construction in terms of the box culvert. All right, when we complete the box culvert, then we will prepare the whole area back to the normal way how it was. So right now, this is one of our major box culvert. We has 2 more to build, but this is the first one. It's just in initial stage. Let me see about 20%, 25%.
The team then moved to another area in Hermitage called the Wharf, where road expansion works is ongoing on 2 retaining walls that has been subcontracted to Bullins Construction Company, one 25.5 meters long and 3 meters high, and the other 26.5 meters. Foreman on the project is Randy Wilkinson.
We have about 12 guys working with us, and the project is going quite fine. Everybody hold the corner, everybody do what they got to do under good supervision.
Any challenges experienced in terms?
based on the water experience, we have a little challenge. We'll fix it.
Apart from, the inclement weather that we've been experiencing and the water and so on, do you think that you're well on your way in terms of meeting your target?
Yes, we do. We work night and day to get things done. So we are on our target. I think we are on our target.
Thank you.
What we are doing here is that we are doing some road expansion. They had some slide movement existing before with a guardrail where it was very hazard for the traffic. So we are doing some road expansion. We're shifting the alignment of the road to the right-hand side. In the process of doing that, commencing that work, as I told you before, we are tackling all the major construction part in terms of all the massive work we're supposed to do. So this is another retaining wall, and this wall is sub out to Mr. Bullen, another subcontractor who is doing this work. Right now, at the stage of this work, it is about 25%. Excavation has done, blinding has poured, and we're getting ready for the steel formation. So far, this is the aspect of this work here.
A massive box culvert is also under construction, and unlike the retaining walls project, the construction of the box culvert, Mr. Maitland says, has been retained by his company, Consolidated Contractors Company Limited.
This box culvert normally has to facilitate because there was overflow of water throughout the existing period before. So we're tackling this box culvert down there is done by our personnel, CCC personnel. We have not subbed up this one. The foreman is a guy by the name of Peter Lawrence, who normally works with the company. He's been working with the company for throughout the years. And he's qualified in doing that because throughout the different projects, he normally do this part of the construction. So he has locals with him who is doing the construction. And the dimension of that bridge is like 8.4 plus 8.2 in terms of width and height. It will facilitate a sidewalk plus a head wall in all the aspect of the box culvert. This box culvert, however, over there is about 85% in completion. What we are doing now is just preparation for the decking slab. We did all the blinding, all the replacement, all the abutment walls, all the base. So what we are doing now is just the cover decking slab for the finishing of the box culvert.
On completion of the retaining walls, aggregates that has been tested from the excavation of the embankments at Carriacou Bailey Hill will be used to backfill.
After the completion of this wall, we will do our basic backfilling layers. If you notice alongside the road, the material we cut from Carriacou Bailey Hill, we are utilizing. When it has been tested, it falls within the specs of the contract, because the contract have a specification required for the job. So the aggregate has been tested. It is suitable for sub-base, sub-grade material. So we are utilizing all this material to backfill the retaining wall. That way you notice you will see a whole pile of material on the left-hand side of the road. What you will also see is that we have some telephone poles also to remove in this area. We need it kind of a speedy to be done. If you could get, the faster we do it, then we'll start handling our drainage work. If you notice, the project would have to start from the back, come up to the front. So we will have to start the drainage work. If you notice, there is no drainage work starting yet because of how we're tackling the job. When we put in all the major construction wall, all the box culvert, the drainage will be just easy to go through. All right? So, and I would reiterate again, they have no much expatriate here. There's only the project engineer, project manager, the project engineer, and that's it. And the majority of people is based on Grenadians who did this job.
CCC's site superintendent says once the electricity poles are removed, the project will progress at a faster pace, making it much more convenient for motorists and pedestrians to traverse. I am Sharia Noel, thanking you for viewing. Finance Minister says serious audit needs to be undertaken at the T.A. Marisho Community College. Details to this story and more in the National Report. Welcome back with the details to the news for Monday, November 25th. I am Sherry-Ann Noel. Grenada's Minister for Finance says a serious audit must be undertaken at the T.A. Marisho Community College to determine the way forward for the institution. Workers at the college have been engaged in industrial action over the past weeks, demanding $6.1 million in increments for the period 2014 to 2018. Wrapping up his contribution to the 2020 budget in the House of Parliament on Friday, Dr. The Right Honourable Keith Mitchell said Tamsisi's College Council needs to ensure that its affairs are properly managed.
We can't be continuously adding millions of dollars that the taxpayers have to, in fact, give, because you cannot one time run a college, an institution at $14 million, and overnight, it's $17 million. It does not make sense. Somebody has to pay for this. And we know there must be some serious changes. When we had it, every 10 person that leaves the system under structural adjustment, the only place that did not operate in that manner was TAMCC. In fact, more persons were added. So clearly, it cannot be felt that we need to make sure we can say that we have to just continue to spend more and more money. And the council has a responsibility. That's their job. Half of the college personnel under government is being appropriately taken care of. The other one under the council is where the problems are. And the government, not the one who manages the day-to-day operation, the council have a fundamental responsibility. So a serious audit of that particular institution is going to be done. So it's not a question just find $6-point-something million. Where is it coming from? It's not as simple as that.
Government provides an annual subvention of $14 million to the College Council as one of its three main sources of income, the other two being tuition and grants. During a recent post-cabinet press briefing, Minister with responsibility for tertiary education, Honorable Pamela Moses, said government is not responsible for paying increments to workers at the institution. Moving along, Minister for Trade, Industry, Cooperatives and CARICOM Affairs, Honorable Oliver Joseph, says good fiscal management and discipline are major ingredients responsible for Grenada's growth rate. Data for the first half of 2019 indicates that the economy is poised to experience its seventh consecutive year of growth, estimated to be 3.2% in real terms.
You have a growth, Mr. Speaker, in the small business sector. Mr. Speaker, this year's budget put in $5 million for establishment of small businesses, to support small businesses. And last year, small businesses accounted for 517 new businesses in the sector. So that is a growing sector. The Small Business Development Fund that is placed in GDB at $5 million, where people, business people, young people can go to and access funding to do their business. You've seen an exponential growth there.
Minister Joseph, who was at the time making his contribution to the 2020 budget, says growth within the construction sector is shared amongst large hotel investment projects and small houses and construction projects.
The construction sector has continued to grow and maintain the growth, not only because of the construction of large hotels, and that is something that sometimes when you say there is growth in the construction sector, they say, well, you finish build 2 hotels, it is the aggregate amount. So what about all the houses that are building around the country? That is construction. All this adding up to the construction sector. Mr. Speaker, the credit union and the banks have indicated in their loan portfolio the majority of the money goes towards building houses and vehicles, That is so construction could be seen in the loans that are being provided by financial institutions.
The minister listed tourism, wholesale retail and manufacturing, fisheries and services sectors as areas that fuel growth in the economy in 2019. This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Did you join the public service on or after February 22nd, 1985 and have since retired? This might be important to you. Government understands that the NIS pension may be insufficient to take care of your needs. So, while it awaits the court's ruling on the matter of pension for public officers, government has taken action to protect your quality of life so that you can take care of your needs in the meantime. Persons who joined the public service on or after February 22nd, 1985 and serve continuously in an established position for a minimum 26 years and 8 months and retired at age 60 may be eligible to receive an advance payment, which when combined with NIS represents 70% of their last salary. For more information, call or visit the Pension Secretariat in the Department of Public Administration, Ministerial Complex, 440-3767.
Welcome back. A meeting in Canada in 2015 between Grenada's Prime Minister, Dr. the Right Honourable Keith Mitchell, and former Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper agreed to ensure that the representative will visit Grenada to provide visa and consular services for nationals if visa restrictions could not be removed. That became a reality in 2019, when Canadian officials spent a full week in Grenada carrying out biometric processing for persons wishing to obtain visas. More than 600 Grenadians took advantage of the services at the Radisson Resort where the team was stationed. The exercise was initially planned for 2 days, but because of the response of Grenadians who saw the opportunity to avoid the added cost of traveling to Trinidad, St. Lucia, Barbados or St. Vincent, it was extended to 1 week. This was made possible through a partnership agreement between the governments of Canada and Grenada. Lincoln Camo, Readiness Program Manager with the Canadian High Commission Office based in Barbados, spoke with the GIS about the process.
It was easy to do the right thing for my government. They always try to do right by Grenada. So when we saw the demand was there. So I was instructed to stay longer. So you're absolutely right. It was supposed to be 2 days, and then it was extended just to meet the need, to respond to the need of the citizen of Grenada. And we are so happy to be able, to respond to this demand because, the people have been so nice. Every client that we had, they were amazing, super patient. People are punctual and everything. So we just have had a great experience. My colleague and myself, it was just amazing. Everything was perfect. We worked very hard, but it's worth it. And it was a great experience to be here and an honor to be able to answer to the demand. Because you know what, we work long hours, but for a good cause, so it's perfect.
He says the number of Grenadians who utilize the service is a clear indication that there was a need.
I can tell you that the impression, right now we are in the ballpark of between 600 and 750. So I would say that we have been managing about 140 clients per day. So yeah, it's probably going to be around 750, but the final number will be provided, of course, by the High Commission of Canada in Barbados and as well by the immigration section that is located in Trinidad. So we're going to crunch these numbers. So what I'm telling you right now is just like my general impression of the numbers, but super, super high, that's for sure. And we're talking minimum 650 and more.
Canada is pleased that officials were able to travel to meet applicants on site at the Radisson Grenada Beach Resort from the 18th to the 22nd November. Outside of that visit, standard procedures remain for Grenadian nationals to travel to biometrics collection points in Barbados, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, or Trinidad and Tobago at all other times. And finally, the Regional Marine Pollution Emergency Information and Training Center, the Grenada Port Authority, International Maritime Organization and other partners are meeting in Grenada this week as they prepare for the ratification of the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, MARPOL, Annex 3 to 5. MARPOL is the main international convention covering prevention of pollution of the marine environment from ships by operational or accidental causes. Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Alva Brung, says the workshop is timely as Grenada works to preserve its marine environment.
Certainly,
Our intention is to ratify the remaining annexes of the convention. This imperative is in keeping with Grenada's obligation to implement and enforce all applicable international maritime organization instruments, including but not limited to MAPOL. In November 2018, Grenada was audited under the IOM Member States Audit Scheme. Following this audit, a corrective action plan was submitted to IOM for verification. The implementation of the plan would involve collaboration between all stakeholders, hence your presence here today for this national workshop. Certainly a step in the right direction.
The convention was adopted in 1973. Additionally, a new protocol was adopted in 1978 and has been updated by several amendments. Facilitator of the workshop, Floyd Patterson, is pleased that Grenada is willing to ratify Annex 3 to 5 of MAPOL.
It is very important, ladies and gentlemen, that we move in the direction we are moving now, in a timely manner. Because when we look at the fact that global warming is affecting us, when we look on the fact that food is getting scarce, when we look on the fact that the small island states are becoming poorer and poorer, we must move in a direction that will help us to grow. So again, PS, I want to say thanks to you very much for moving with the rest of the Caribbean and leading the way in ratifying, especially Annexes 3 to 5.
And with this, we come to the end of the National Report for Monday, November 25th. On behalf of the entire news and production team, I am Sherry Noel, thanking you for viewing.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated. The new National Party, NNP St. Andrews Southwest Youth Arm, presents its annual themed cocktail and gala. It's 90s style. That's right, we're going back in time. Saturday, November 30th, 2019. Going down at the Twilight Nightclub, Grenville. Cocktail starts from 7 p.m. until you say when. Tickets cost only $15. Finger foods included. With music by Grenada's top DJs alongside live performances. Lots of dope prizes for the best dressed male, best dressed female, best dressed couple, and many more. The NNP St. Andrews Southwest Youth Arm 90s style cocktail and gala. Saturday, November 30th.
This is very, very important for the people of Moncton. There are many children and many young mothers who would have gotten jobs or gotten training opportunities, but because they have young children and nowhere to put them, then that's a problem. So the fact that we have this new child development center, they now will be able to put their children in a safe home and go out to find a job or to find some of the training opportunities that is available that can help them to get a job in the future.
First of all, I would really like to thank Minister Delma Thomas and the government for having the vision to give us such an excellent facility in Moncton. Well, this facility is extremely important to Moncton and the surrounding communities because Moncton is one of the most populated villages with children in the entire Northwest constituency. And to have a model center like this, being the first one built in St. Andrew and having it in Moncton, it's a blessing for us. As we all know, the brain develops most rapid in a child's life in its early stages. And as a result of that, this facility is so important. It will enable the young ones to develop the social skills that will enable them to better engage with other children and with other adults growing up. Well, I must tell you that Moncton is a place, as a community, that has its challenges, with younger people growing up. And I'm convinced that such a facility will help the young ones to change their behavior and change their attitude as they become adults because of the importance of this facility and what it would have done for them in their early childhood years.
If you want to stay married, divorce speed. Never drink and drive. After whiskey, driving is risky. A message from the Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force.
Now this is the big one as Culture Train String Band Group presents The Parent Train 2.0 from Friday, November 1st to Saturday, December 21st. And we kick things off on the Sister Isle. Friday, November 1st, the Brunswick Cemetery. November 9th, Bristol Shop in Leicester. November 15th, Modest Shop in Mount Royal. November 16th, Waynes Bar, Hillsborough. November 22nd, Brongo Shop, Harvey Vale. November 23rd, Goosey Shop, Winwood. November 27th, Sky Shop in Brunswick. November 29th, we head to Union Island to Hugh Malzat Square, Clifton. November 30th, we inside P.T. Martinic at Jigs Cross. December 4th, Pro Shop, Belvedere. On December 6th, we head to the mainland Grenada at Travelers Bar, Grandmore. And on December 8th, Gold's Bar under the Bamboo, Pedmota. December 11th, Marvin Shop in 6 Roads. And on Saturday, December 21st, it's the grand finale round the island. And all events start from 7 p.m. Parent Train 2.0 brought to you by Grenada Tourism Authority, Government of Grenada, Grenada Distillers Limited, Digicel, WeiVybz FM, Sister Isle Radio, Amazing Colors, Ariza Credit Union, and Booms Construction.
The Parent Train, and they'll be coming in by you.